Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to AU 2025 and your lab for today. Our lab today is 1256L Digital Design Transformation from 2D to 3D to collaboration to coordination on ACC. This pre-recording is meant for you to have prior to the actual lab for consumption and afterwards so that you can use it should you need to. It's also going to be used for timing purposes as well. So I hope that this is valuable information for you before you arrive in class. As with all things Autodesk, there is a safe harbor statement. So making sure that everybody understands any forward-looking statements or outlook or future results cannot just be used the data that we have here. Okay, so just be careful. Today's agenda is quite simple. We're going to cover some basic welcome and introductions. We'll take a look at the tools that we have at hand. We will then take a look at how to import and create our 2D to 3D content in Revit. Then we will go into how to upload the information, understand what we have, look at our clashes, and then create issues from those clashes. And hopefully, if time permits, we will round trip the information back to Revit and see the results and take a look at final thoughts. As you all know, my name is Zan Ta. I'm an Autodesk Expert Elite, Autodesk Services Marketplace provider, and Autodesk Certified Instructor. I am one of the Autodesk Technical Specialists that works for Symmetry USA, and it is part of the AdNode group. If you'd like to have more information about me and my background, there is a nice little scanner profile code thing that you can use on your phone, and it'll pull up my LinkedIn profile, which you can join and connect with me. We have 4 lab assistants today as well that are here to help you throughout the entire process. These are some of my closest colleagues and friends that I've known for probably 10 plus years easily, and they are also Autodesk Expert Elites. And in your handout, there is a little bio profile for each of them as well. We have Argelia, Christina, Rena, and Sheer. Here is our overview of our steps. Really simple. We're going to take a look at our tools. What is AutoCAD? What's Revit? Playing with the applications and Autodesk Construction Cloud. Basic understanding of the tools that we have to work with today. We will then get into how to import the AutoCAD file into Revit so that we can see the 2D data. And then from there, use basic Revit commands like walls, doors, windows, furniture, floor, and to create a basic Revit model for our lab. The Revit model you will be creating will not be the entire model because we just don't have time. It will be just the 4th floor of a building that I've already created for you. We will then go to upload the data into Autodesk Construction Cloud and then take a look at the basics of what ACC is. And then we'll get into clashes and issues. So where are all the clashes? How do you set up clashes? How are they ran? And then how do we take those clashes and turn them into issues, formal requests that we can assign to users, and then let other people, not necessarily you, fix those problems in the Revit model. And then lastly, if we have time again, we'll get back into the Revit model. We'll make the necessary changes that we need. We'll upload the changes, and then we'll review the new clashes and review the new issues. For here, I'm going to switch out of the PowerPoint presentation and jump into our first tool, AutoCAD. So on your Autodesk workstation lab that you've got in front of you, you will already have AutoCAD open, Revit open, ACC website open via Chrome, and the handout and the PowerPoint presentation just in case you need it. The dataset files that you have to work with are duplicated in multiple locations. One is your desktop. There is a folder called 1256L dataset, and your information that you will need to work with is in there. It is also located on ACC, which I'll show you shortly. So the first thing is AutoCAD. That's our first tool. How many people here actually know AutoCAD? For those of you who've never touched AutoCAD, it's okay. We're not going to actually be using AutoCAD to do any actual work. We're just going to be using it to investigate what we're dealing with at the beginning of this process. So here in AutoCAD, I've got AutoCAD 2026 open. To open up the file that we're dealing with, you can do one of two things. You can click Open and browse to your data set. Your data set file for this particular lab is going to be located on your desktop. For me, in this video, I have it under my Autodesk University folder, and there is a folder called 1256L dataset. Look under the CAD files, and you can see that there is a 3D view file, but also just to give you a general idea of the actual 3D model that you're working with from an AutoCAD perspective, but more importantly, the 2D floor plan that you'll be inputting in. So that's one place for you to go. The other place for you to go is actually on ACC. So if you wish to open up the CAD file on ACC, you'll click Autodesk Projects, head over to the Symmetry US Inside Test Account Hub, head over to the AU 2025 Digital Design Transformation lab project that I have created, and you can adjust this bar as well so that you can see all of the verbiage. In there is a project files, and in there is a 006.1256-L dataset, and the CAD files are there. So if you go in here, you can see the file as well. You can select it, and AutoCAD 2026 will open up the CAD file. This is basically a 2D floor plan of what you're going to be building. So once we bring it into Revit, you'll be using the wall command to create the walls. You'll be using door and window commands to create windows. You'll be using the component command to put in furniture, and just to get a general floor plan 3D model built. And that's it. That's from the AutoCAD perspective. Let's go ahead and move on to the second tool that you're going to be working with, which is Revit. And again, like I said earlier, Revit is already open for you. Now, how many people here have never touched Revit? If you've never touched Revit, you're going to have a doozy of a time in this class. No, I'm just kidding. It's okay if you've never touched Revit. What you're going to be doing in Revit is very, very simple, and it's easy to work with. So here I am in Revit 2026. And to open up the file that you're going to be dealing with, you're actually going to be creating a brand new file. And to create a new file, you're going to be using a specific template file. So here in Revit 2026, under the section where it says Models, you'll click New. In this dialog box, it will assume that you want to work with a default template file that comes shipped with the software. We will not be using that. You will be using the Browse command to browse to your dataset file. Again, like I said, your dataset file is on your desktop in that folder or up in the cloud in the same location. So for me, for this video, I'm going to go to my Autodesk University folder, go to my dataset files, go to Revit Models, and in here, there is a Revit template file called AU 2025 starting template file.rte. .rte means Revit template file, and your Revit model is a .rvt. So we'll select this file as a starting point and click Open. There we click OK, and you now have a brand new Revit project that is going to be created, and it's typically called Project 1. And you're going to be presented with 4 elevation markers, and you will be on level 4 of this particular building that we are working with. Let's go ahead and save this file as a specific name for the purposes of the lab. You'll go over to the File tab, Save As, Project, and when you save it, you can save it wherever you want. You can either put it in the lab folder, dataset folder on your desktop, or just on the desktop itself, or under My Documents, wherever you want, as long as you know exactly where you place it. So for me, for this video, I'm going to go over to my secondary drive, and I'm going to create a folder, and I'm going to call it AU 2025 Lab Recording Data. And in here, I'll create the name of the model. Now, The name of the model needs to be very, very specific because there are a lot of you in the lab, and we want to ensure that your model is easy to understand that it is your model. So what we'll do is we will call it AU2025 Revit Arc Model underscore, and then your name or some designation that you want that you know is easy to remember. So I'm going to say Zon Ta and hit save. I'll give everybody a couple minutes to get that done, and then we will move on to the next step. All right. So now that you have your model ready to go, let's go ahead and import in the CAD file. To import the CAD file in, you head over to the Insert tab, head over to the Import panel, and click Import CAD. You will be presented with the Import CAD Formats window, and your job is to go find the CAD file. Again, head over to your dataset folder or to the ACC lab portal. The easiest, I would say for now, is head over to your dataset folder that's on your desktop. So again, for me, it's under My Documents, Autodesk University 2025, Dataset folder, head over to the CAD files, and here you are going to see the CAD files. There's two of them. We want the first one called the level 4 floor plan for import. Now, do not double click the file. Single click the file. And the reason is because if you double click, Revit will assume whatever settings that you've done in the last time you initiate this command, and it'll hold those settings. I always single click so I can see a preview of what I'm about to bring in. I can ensure that that is the correct file name that I want to work with. And then I can make any adjustments that I need to make here under the bottom section of this dialog box. So current view only, basically, if you have it checked, means it is only going to go into this one level 4 floor plan view. You will not see it in any other aspect of the model. We do not want to check this, okay? Colors, AutoCAD works with colors, Revit works with colors as well. But here you're basically saying preserve the colors, invert the colors, or go black and white. I like to leave it at preserve so I can see the color CAD stuff very easily compared to the Revit modeling 3D content. We have layers. AutoCAD has layers, right? So we can either bring all of them in, only what's visible from Revit from the last time AutoCAD was open, or specify. In this case, I'll just click all to bring them all in. And then import units, leave it to auto detect so we can figure out what the units are of the CAD file and bring it in to match the units of the Revit model. Positioning is set to origin, to internal origin. Leave it, it's fine. There are other options if you want to, but for the purposes of this lab, we're leaving it at the default. And we are placing it on level 4. We will click open and it comes in. Once it comes in, you'll be able to see it in this view and in the 3D view. If you hover over it, it gives you a solid box. If you select it, you'll see that you have it selected and it'll tell you it's an imported symbol, okay? Also, you have the ability to delete layers, explode, which I do not recommend because rule of thumb is never explode a CAD file in Revit, and then query if you want to pick an entity and understand what is that entity by giving you a dialog box, okay? If you want to see what it looks like in 3D, oh, and by the way, when you bring in a CAD file that is origin to origin, it is pinned down by default, which is what we want. That's fine, so it doesn't accidentally get moved. Let's hit this little house symbol up here in the quick access toolbar, and it will take you to the default 3D view of what you're dealing with. So here's our 2D CAD file on the 4th floor of the building that you're about to work with. So from here, we want to head to level 4, back to that view, and we want to start using the tools in Revit to create the building elements. So I'm going to head over to the Architecture tab and use the wall command, Architectural. We'll head over to the Type Selector, and they have a whole bunch of walls that are there for you to work with. A lot of these are the default, and I try to keep using the default walls so you don't have to worry about making any custom walls. The interior 4 and 7/8 partitions are the ones that are in here. So we'll start there. Make sure that when you work with the tool, specify the height to go all the way to the roof for now, not unconnected at 10.6. And the reason is this. We're purposely taking these walls up to roof so they will clash with the MEP model data. If you put it up there and specify the height as 10.6, you will not see a lot of clashes from the MEP modeling and architecture modeling perspective. So for now, make sure your walls are whatever you choose. Make sure its height is up to roof. You can go here under the location line and specify what you want. And then you can start modeling. So I'm going to, and as you can see with the CAD file, it sees the data and you can actually click and pull and it will snap into the geometry, okay? Now, for the purposes of this lab, I'm going to give people 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, depends on how fast people can work. So go ahead and at this point, bring in your CAD file, make sure you've got to this level, and then start modeling walls, as you can see here. And if you've never done this in Revit, it's okay, don't worry, just try your best. And for the purposes of this video, again, I'm giving everybody about 15 minutes or so to build your interior walls. Exterior walls if you want to as well. The exterior walls are curtain walls. But for now, we're just going to work with the interior walls. And by the way, if you're building the walls, you can use a space bar to flip the orientation of the wall as well, depending on which way you're clicking and pulling your mouse, either left or right or up or down, okay? And as you're modeling, you'll notice too that Revit will automatically clean up the intersections, okay? And depending on how particular you want to be, you can go ahead and zoom in as close as you need to build the walls. And again, for the purposes of the class and the lab, I'm going to build what I need to build fairly quickly. If we have time, you can use the modify commands to move, rotate, copy, things like that. But if you don't have time and you've never touched those commands, you can just select your geometry and use your arrow keys to move content. So building the model and working with the wall command, as you can see, is pretty straightforward. It's not difficult to do. You just take your time when it comes to clicking and dragging your mouse and placing it wherever you want. As well, when you're working with the software, don't worry too much that it's not the exact wall type, as in regards to the thickness of the wall. Just, roughly put it in. The purposes of this lab is to give you a taste of how to go from 2D to 3D and how to build the content so that you can use ACC for clashing purposes. This is not a class that I'm going to be stressing too much on the quality level of your Revit model. Obviously, I would prefer that you build the Revit model super, super clean and do the best you can, but it's not a necessity, okay? And as you can see, I'm just kind of randomly putting in the walls just because this is kind of how you would work in Revit. You could work more systematically if you want to, but as you can see, I've just built a few walls. And for the purposes of everybody who's never touched Revit, to put in a door or a window, we could just click the door command right here, pick the door type that we want to work with in the type selector, because they have a whole bunch for you to work with. And then just hover over your mouse. And depending on which side your mouse is on, is decide that the door wants to go in. You can hit the space bar to flip which way it swings as well. And then just build your doors like you would here as well. See? And again, you don't have to be exact. As you notice, I picked the wrong door, and there needs to be some minor adjustments. So I can select the door, and I could type SA to select all the doors at one shot and do a 0 masonry inset. And then if I need to, I can go to the type properties of that door. I can even adjust things like the size of the door, the height, the thickness, the masonry frame depth right here. See? So maybe I make it 5 inches instead, just to see how it reads. See? So go through the process of putting in walls and doors. You don't even have to do the windows for the purposes of clash. Most importantly for clashing today in issues is creating these walls that go up to the roof. So now that we've had that time to do that, how do we take this model and take a look at it in 3D so you can see what it looks like in 3D? And we're going to save this model as a cloud model. So the first thing we want to do is we want to just save the work that we've done. So click Save right here or type Control S and it saved the model. To turn it into an ACC cloud-based model for collaboration, we head over to the Collaborate tab and then we click Collaborate. When we do this, you're going to get a dialog box that says within your network or in the cloud. We are doing this in the cloud, so we have to click in the cloud. We click OK. Now, this is where it's critical. Your Revit software and your online services, specifically BIM Collaborate Pro, must be assigned to your Autodesk account. This is a lab. Your Autodesk account is a lab account. It gives you network access to AutoCAD and Revit, and it should give you access to ACC. If it does, this is what you will see. You'll also notice that you have this function because in the upper right corner in the information toolbar, you are logged in and you have an Autodesk account. So if everything goes correct, then you should see Save as Cloud Model window, and you should see your particular company hub and the project that you're working with. Also, prior to the actual lab, about 2 weeks or so, I will include all of your lab accounts as part as members within this project. So you should be in there. So head over here to where it says AU 2025 Digital Design Transformation Lab. Head over to project files. And then in regards to the location of the placement of your architecture model, click architecture for that folder. Here you want to give it your specific name. As we named it earlier, we called it RevitArch model underscore and your name. It's easy for you to see because you'll notice there are other Revit models up there already for the purposes of the lab. We are going to have, I am guessing, 60 to 80 students in the lab doing this at the same time. So don't just call your Revit model Revit architecture because it won't work. Make sure it's unique so that you can find it and work with it. So I'm going to click Save. And Revit is going to automatically create the work sharing functionality, create the standard workset 1 default workset, save the model to the hub, to the project, and turn it into an ACC cloud-based model. So now that that's finished, you'll see a dialog box that says it's done. Click Close. From here, you can save the model locally and then save the model back to the cloud with the second button here, Synchronize and Modify Settings. You'll notice here, it actually shows you in the pathing that you're actually saving it to Autodesk Docs to that lab project and the name of your model. So hit OK, and it's done. For now, close the Revit model out of Revit. So we'll hit the X's to close them. And if we click Autodesk Projects right here, this will take you to the Cemetery US Internal Test account, which has the AU 2025 Digital Design Transformation project, and will take you to, by default, project files and architecture. And look, you'll see your model is right there. Now, to publish your model, you can hit the little checkbox right here, right click, and say Publish Latest. When you click Publish, what you're basically doing is you're telling the software, capture everything in the Revit model and push it up to ACC for the purposes of anybody else who doesn't have Revit can look at that data in the ACC portal in an HTML-based interface. Okay. When you're working with Revit and you're actually working on these Revit models within the application, you're actually working on the central model. There is a local model that is created. It is buried deep in your user's subfolder, and it is synchronizing with Revit server back and forth to ACC so that it can do what you need to do. It makes it a lot more transparent and easy for you to work with. You just basically go to the hub, to the project, to the folder, to the model, select it, and open it and work with it. Okay, so now while this is going on, we will minimize Revit and we will go to ACC. So we're going to open up Google Chrome. You can use Microsoft Edge if you want to, but I find that Google Chrome works best for Autodesk sites. So heading over to Google or to the homepage, head up to the URL address and just type in acc.autodesk.com. And it will get you to the site. Now, hopefully, your lab accounts will automatically be set to log you in. If not, there will be a window that says log into your Autodesk account. So make sure you log in with the lab account and the password that has been set up for you. If you don't know, we can see about getting that data to you guys as early as possible prior to the lab. Now that you're here in ACC, you can see that you're in the projects section, and you can see that there are 3 projects. These projects, be very careful because we want to work with the one that we're dealing with, which is our lab, okay? Do not go into the other projects because these are actual real working projects by other clients, okay? So for now, we would jump into our digital design transformation lab. And what happens is it will default you to Autodesk Docs, which is up here in the upper left corner. All right, now let's take a quick look at our third tool, Autodesk Docs. What is Autodesk Docs and what is ACC? It's your online portal for you to do what you need to do to upload all of your data and work in a central collaborative manner that gives you secure access and accountability for what you're dealing with. So in the upper left corner, you're going to see your navigation function called Docs. You can click My Home to get you back to the actual home page of ACC. And you can see here tiles of information of different projects that you're dealing with, where are they located, any issues that you have, and so on and so forth. You can click projects to jump back to projects and click this to jump back into the project. You can actually create a project template file as well to use when you're creating new projects. That way it makes your life a lot easier. It's very similar to a Revit template file, very similar to an AutoCAD template file, okay? So we're going to go back into the project. And again, you hear under Autodesk Docs, you have files, specifications, and so on. Files is where we have our project files and all the folders that we create and subfolders we create and all the data that you work with in your project. So I created several folders for us already. And you can see we have an architecture folder that has the Revit Arc model. We have an MEP folder for the MEP model. We have a structure folder for the structural model. We have a Revit Model Cloud Coordination folder for our Revit Cloud Coordination purposes and clashing. We have the AutoCAD collaboration files, which is where you will find the 2D CAD file for bringing into Revit. You also have the data set folder here just in case you need that data. And I also included the PowerPoint and handout files in Word and PowerPoint for you up on this site. So that's Docs, okay? Now, if we switch over to model coordination, which is where we are today in the lab, this is where you're going to go to look at clashes and issues. When you initially create your project on ACC and you go down the path of starting your model coordination, you have to create a model coordination space. So up here in the upper right corner, I already have one created for this lab. You can click Manage Coordination Spaces, and you'll see that we have one already created for you for the purposes of a lab. But for you, when you're doing a real world project, real life world project, and you're going down this path, you need to create one in order for you to do anything you need to do. So over here in the upper left corner, you have models, views, clashes, issues, so on and so forth. The models tab is going to list all the models that are currently in this Revit Cloud Coordination space, which is the folder that I showed you earlier, so that the system can start doing clashes immediately. Views are any views that you have saved that you want to jump back to right away within the system. Clashes is where it's going to show you all of your clashes based upon all the models that you have in there, okay? And then issues is going to list any and all issues that you have, whether they're open, in review, completed, whatever status it is. And then you have other tools too, and we have members here as well. You'll also notice too, if you were to go to members, it should list by default at least these members here, me and 2 other accounts that I have that I use for demonstration purposes, your lab assistants, and then most likely as well, a list of all the lab students. You guys are listed in here as well, okay? Now, let's jump back to the PowerPoint presentation just so that you guys can get an idea of where we are. We've gone through the first stage, which is understanding our tools. We've gone through the second stage, which was how to import the CAD file and then start creating the Revit model. We've gone through the process of uploading the data and understanding the basics of ACC. We're now going to jump into clashes and issues, and then model resolution and coordination. So what is a clash? A clash is basically when one object hits another object in a model. That is a clash. It's really simple, okay? Now here under the clashes section of model coordination, you're going to see you have multiple models for the purposes of our lab and for your purposes as well. When you're doing real world projects, you don't necessarily are going to have all the models being looked at. Here you can uncheck all of them and you can say, let's check only the models that we want to work with for clashing purposes. So in this case, we're going to put in, if you look carefully, you'll also notice that we have the ARC model, the MVP, and the structure model, and we have the final versions of them, but we don't have our own model. We have yet to push that in. So how do we do that? Head back to Docs. Head back to the project. It should default you back to the architecture, to the project files folder. Head back to the architecture folder and you see your model here. Again, make sure it's the model that you're working with. Select it by using this check mark in the box, using the 3 little dots for additional tools, and click copy. By the way, everything that I'm teaching you in the video and in the lab is in the handout as well. So don't worry if you miss a step. If I'm going too fast, by the way, just tell me slow down a little bit. If I'm not going fast enough, I will go much faster. If you have a hiccup or a problem, your lab assistants are here to help you. Don't worry, okay? So now that I've said, let me cancel, let me go back. So as long as I said copy right here, it's gonna say select the target folder. We wanna put it in the Revit Model Cloud Coordination folder and hit copy. Give it a second, and it tells you one file was copied to 004.Revit Model Cloud Coordination. Head back to our model coordination service. Head over to models by default. And it's going to immediately start looking at all the models. And if you don't see your model in here, that's okay. It's because it takes a few minutes for it to process the data. So while this is happening in the background, I'm going to pause for a second and see how's everybody doing. Have y'all had a chance to make a fairly decent model and save the model and upload it to the cloud? If you haven't and you're a little behind, it's okay. This video is for the purposes of timing as well as giving you the time you need. So our video presentation today that I'm recording right now is going to negate the time that's given for you to do each of the steps. This is just to show you what the steps are in the process. And then, like I said, when it comes to copying the model from your architecture folder to the model coordination space, it takes a second, and you'll notice, see, it automatically refreshed and it shows you that your personal model that you created earlier has now been copied. If we head over to clashes, it's now going to say an additional number of models. See, it had 6 earlier, now it says 7. So go in here again, say hide all, and let's only put a check mark for the models that we want to use for clashing purposes, which is going to be your personal model against the MEP model, not the final. So these two, the final MEP model has been revised to prevent clashes. Okay, that's what these final ones are for. That's for you for later so you can explore. We're going to have those two checked, and we're going to hit apply. And what's going to happen is you're going to see horizontal lines that tell you which models that they're looking at and where are the clashes based upon that perspective, whether you're an architect or an MEP engineer. So I'm going to click the number 20 to get into that list of clashes. Now, the higher the number, darker the color is going to be. Okay, your job ultimately is to have nothing. Okay, so we're just going to click 20 right now just to see what we have. And you're going to see immediately a 3D view isolating all the clashes that it shows automatically based upon the model that I've created. See that? You'll see over here on the left-hand side, clashes is already highlighted, and it's showing you the primary model clashing against the secondary model, grouped by object. You can also group by different purposes if you need to as well. And then there is a tolerance function here that allows you to show clashes above X number of inches. Okay, think of it like you know how Autodesk Navisworks Manage gives you the ability to do clashes that are soft clashes, where the objects just brush against another object, or if it's within 1 or 2 inches of clearance, it's considered a quote unquote soft clash. It just depends on kind of how you want to look at a clash and how you want to classify it for the purposes of investigation and coordination against other disciplines. So down here, you're going to see a list of all the clashes. You can click any one that you want, and it will zoom into that. And you can hold the Shift key down and press and hold your mouse wheel down and orbit and see what's happening. See that? So it's very easy for you to see the clashes this way. And you can go, again, picking each particular clash will actually take you to that particular 3D view. Now, how do you take these clashes and turn them to an issue? It's really simple. All you have to do is put a little check mark in the box that you're dealing with. It will highlight a little bit bolder. You then click Create Issue. By the way, if it's not an issue, you can click Not an Issue. And then you can specify the reason and any comments. Okay, so for now, I'm going to click Cancel. I'm going to still have it checked. And I'm going to click Create Issue. And then you're going to get a contextual menu that pops up, and you're going to specify what type of clash is it. Is it a coordination clash, or is it just a general clash, or so on and so forth. There's a long list. For the purposes of our lab and most clashes, I just put clash. You're going to get a little dialog box that says click a position on one of the highlighted models to create an issue. So you're basically going to mark it. So I'm going to click right here, and it's going to put a little yellow marker. When it does this, it's automatically going to create the issue, and it's going to say issue number X. That number is going to be based upon how many issues you've already have in the actual project. So I've already done 5 prior issues for the lab, so this is becoming number 6. And you'll see all the data about that clash. Anything that has a little pencil marker symbol allows you to change that data. So by default, it's going to give you information based upon the graphic user GUID ID number of the Revit geometry. So it's saying here it's a basic wall against 2 other objects, 2 other MEP objects. You see that? So you can click the pencil and change it to whatever you want. You can delete this and call it whatever you want. We can say MEP ductwork clash with wall and hit the check mark. And then you'll see that you have a status as being open. It could be draft, open, pending, in review, or closed. So for now, we're leaving it as open. The type is clash, and you can change it if you need to change it. The description, again, is going to say 2 clashes between GUID ID 1, basic wall, and other GUID objects as well. Again, you can change it. You can just delete it and put whatever you want. weird clashes with wall and MEP content. Fix this and hit the check mark. Now, here, more importantly, you have assigned to. So you can actually click in here and assign this issue to a particular person. So for example, I can say assign it to either one of my lab assistants or any one of the other student users that are in the lab today, because you're going to see a long list. Okay, so for the purposes of the video, we have a short one. So I'm going to assign it to myself. And then you can even scroll down a little bit further and you can specify watchers. A watcher, what's a watcher? A watcher is a user that you want to say, hey, let's have them be notified that there is an issue number 6 and that it has been assigned to a specific person. So just have them watch that issue to ensure that they can check it later down the road if they want to. So I can say, let's assign it to my other Zonta accounts for the purposes of the lab. Click out here to get out of that dialog box. And then you have other choices too, like location. So here we're going to specify the 4th floor. Now, location, by the way, has to be preset in the project. So if you didn't set up the locations yet within the projects, you have to do that. Otherwise, there won't be anything here for you to click. Again, you can click here for location details. We can say upper left corner floor plan view-based location and check mark. And then you can specify when is it due. So since this is for the purposes of our AU presentation and AU is from the 14th to the 20th, I'm going to assume that it's going to be due by the 20th. And then we can tell the person you need to start working on it. We'll work on it. We'll assign it to him starting Thursday because the first lab is today, Wednesday, and I have my second lab is on Thursday. So we'll set it like that. And then you have a root cause. You can click in here and specify whatever you want. And then you can even drag and drop any additional files that you want. Maybe this is not just a model design coordination issue, but maybe you have a mock site and you started building this stuff and you might have somebody take a picture. You can actually attach that file and so on, okay? Or any other reference data as you need. If you want to, you can go here under comments and do what you need to do for this lab. Please fix your walls in Revit for the ARC model, your model. And when you're done, you hit submit. And then you're done. Now, the dialog box for issue 6 doesn't disappear after you hit submit. If you click this X, it'll go away. You'll also notice over here under clashes, now it's 1 less. So it was 20, now it's 19. So let's head back to our main model coordination location. So I'm going to click this little X to get out of that view. And if we look at clashes, we don't have 20, we have 19. If we go over to issues, then you're going to see issue number 6, see? And if you click the text description title for that, it's going to give you the issue number 6 and all that detail. If you click the thumbnail, it'll open up and show you that particular view, see? So we know right now that we have a clash. We have a whole bunch of clashes. We know that we can investigate those clashes and create issues from those clashes. We know that we can assign the issue to a particular user. And by the way, when you assign the issue to a particular user, they will get an email. And that email will say, hey, so-and-so has assigned this issue to you. Click this link here to go to it. And when they click the link, it will take them directly to that particular issue within ACC. So here in my Gmail, you can see that that email came through. Let me hit back to inbox so you can see it has Autodesk Construction as the title. If you click inside, you'll see the notification and information. It says issues, it says issue number 6, MEP ductwork. If I were to click this link, it should open up ACC directly to the hub, to the project, to the issues, and show you the issues section and a list of all the issues. We need to fix this issue, right? So how do we fix this issue? Well, we got to go back to Revit and we got to fix those walls because those walls are interfering with the ductwork. So what do? We head back to Revit, go back to our Autodesk projects, go back to project files, go back to architecture, find the model that we're dealing with, which is our own personal model, open it back up. So now we have our model opened up. We need to fix it. We know that these walls are interfering with the MEP ductwork because they're too high. That's why I specifically said make all the walls go to roof. So what we're going to do is we're going to select a wall, type in SA to select all the walls. You can do this in 3D. If, however, you do it in level 4 floor plan view, and you've already created other walls of different type, make sure you select the wall, right click, select all instances visible in the view, because it will select all the walls of that type. If you notice, I only created these walls of one wall type, but in this model, there are other walls of different type, like this one, 8-inch CMU here. So if you built other walls of different types, you'll have to do it multiple times. So once you've got the first grouping selected, go over here under the instance property and let's change it from up to level roof to unconnected and make it 10.5 feet. And then just move your mouse away from the properties panel and the changes will be effective immediately. If we go back to the 3D model, you'll see it's much lower. See that? So now that you're finished making that change, save your model, save it locally, then save it again back to the central model and hit OK. Let it do its thing. And then close your model. Now, what I've noticed with Revit in regards to publishing the model now, you'll notice that it says it's already published here. It doesn't recognize that you just made changes. So the easiest way for you to update this here is click to a different folder like MEP, and then click back to architecture folder. Once you've done that, your little publish alert button gives you a blue and a white lightning bolt symbol. So go ahead and hit the checkbox again, right click and publish latest and hit publish. Again, it's going to push the new updated Revit model up to ACC. Give it some time for it to do this. If we switch back over to Chrome and go back to in the upper left corner navigation and go back to Docs, we can head back over to the architecture folder and we can see that our model is here, and you'll notice that it's doing a little circle processing and it's automatically telling you it's V4. So you got to give it time for it to finish the creation. You'll know it's finished because the circle will stop and it won't show up anymore that it's spinning. Once that's done, then we can copy this new updated model to the cloud coordination space to overwrite the one that we had earlier, okay? By the way, the model coordination space, those models, you cannot delete them. You can always overwrite them, but you can't delete them. It doesn't give you the option. But so for now, while this is being processed in the back end, I'm going to open up the floor again for any questions that anybody has. And also, this is a good time to have, for those of you who are not as crazy fast as I am or other people, to take your time to continue making the changes and the content that you need to make. As you can see, it does take a second. If you hit the refresh button, it might show you that it's completed. If not, just wait. This part of the process, see, it's done, right? It just happens that way. There's no control on how to make it move faster if you need to make it move faster. So hit the refresh and you should be okay. Again, hit the checkbox, hit the 3 little dots, click copy, and copy back to your Revit Model Cloud Coordination and hit copy. It will give you the alert to let you know that it's been copied. Head back to your model coordination location, and under models, it should show you your model and it should show you the little circle that's spinning to let you know that it is updating the model. Now, since we did it the first time earlier, it says V1. It should say V2, which means it's still processing. There's no Unfortunately, there's no little circle bar that's circling in this situation here. So I usually give it 2 to 5 minutes for it to process, and then we should be okay. So let's just give it a few minutes. And again, I'll let everybody else kind of catch up or get to a decent stage where you want to. And if you've already kind of been familiar with this stuff in this process, I'm glad it is. It's a good reiteration for you. Um, so let's hit refresh again. All right, so now as you can see here, we've got the new version V2 for our model. So let's head back to clashes. And again, by default, it's going to look at all the models. So go back into your dialog box here and check your model against the MEP model and hit apply. There should be a significant number of model clashes that have been reduced. As you can see here, we went from 19 and 20 down to 1. So if I hit the little 1, you can investigate and see what is still there. There's one right here. And it has to do with a flexible duct that is barely grazing this wall. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to let the assume that the flexible duct is just going to rest on top of that wall, and we're good to go. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to click not an issue, and I'm going to say valid interface for now. And flex duct will sit on top of wall or clear based on MEP fabrication installer, and hit OK. And then hit the little X right here to get out of that view. And again, it's going to show you the clashes. And again, because it always defaults to showing all of them, pick the one that's yours, pick the MEP model, hit apply, and there should be 0 clashes. That's the ultimate goal of what you want. Okay. Heading back to issues, we can see that we had that issue 6 right here. We can click inside and we can see that that was the original issue. We can go back in here and say closed. Okay. And then hit the little X and you're done. So that's the entire process, if you will, of creating a 3D model from a 2D file, turning it into an ACC model, pushing it up to the project, understanding what you have to work with, putting it into the model coordination location to run clashes, to create issues, to resolve the issues and assign the issues to whomever you need to do, and round trip that back with Revit and ACC. Let me jump back to the PowerPoint presentation real quick. So we talked about, let's switch this real quick. So we talked about all of the steps. So we have finished working with step 4, which is creating clashes and issues and understanding the assignment of them. And then model coordination and resolution as well. How to fix the Revit model, how to upload the changes, how to review the new clashes and any new issues and make resolutionary changes. At this point, we may or may not have additional time in the lab for questions. If we do, I'm opening up now to any questions you might have. I know it's kind of crazy AU, so if you have to leave, early, that's fine too. Thank you very much. Please stay connected with us. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. There's a lot, okay? Just stay on social media. I have a boatload on social media too, by the way. And thank you. I appreciate the time. If you found this lab helpful and fun and exciting, don't forget we have the surveys that you have to do as well. And for those of you who were able to come in but not actually touch the computers because maybe we didn't have enough lab computers, there is another session happening on Thursday, tomorrow, at the end of the day. Look at your schedule as well, okay? So there's a second session of this, and I'll go through the exact same stuff. But other than that, thank you guys very much. I appreciate everything. And hope you guys have a great fun AU. Hope to see you at the celebration on Thursday night. And hope to see you all over the place in Nashville having fun. Thank you.